What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 161 of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's about Sonic news, and Sonic movie news. My name is Ethan, and with me here is my romantic rival, Devin.
If he wasn't so hot, there's no way I would be doing this.
It worked out. Yes, indeed. We watched for your pleasure today the 2011
Great year.
direct to technically it was in theaters, but really direct to video game adaptation known as Tekken Blood Vengeance.
Which,
Yeah.
an interesting title considering what we just watched.
Yeah, so I need to set some things in here before we talk about, like, it's a little bit of context here. Context I did not know until I read the Wikipedia synopsis for it.
Okay.
Which I also, in searching for a way to find the movie, and we got it online. You probably have too if you watched it. Read the synopsis just by trying to find it anyway, what streaming service it was on. But this movie takes place in between Tekken's 5 and 6, but is also an
Okay.
alternate history thing. So none of this is actually canon, but if it was, that's where it would slot. And I think that's because Tekken 6 was the latest one at the time, and Tekken 6 had Alyssa in it. I'm pretty sure she was in it. She's in 7. Pink-haired robot girl. So it's in there, and that is why it feels so incomplete, because my issue with this movie, I'm just going to hop in a little bit here. My issue with this movie is assumes that you're a Tekken fan, like a super fan. You could be obviously
You
assumes
you
you're a
know
Tekken
the
fan.
lore.
It
You
assumes
read
you
the
know
other
the lore.
Bibles
Yeah.
before getting into this. Yeah.
And it assumes you know that, and that's why it just assumes you know all this stuff, and it's a stepping stone. This movie is a stepping stone, whether you like it or not. Now let's hop into what we know about the like
And to be
what about
fair, kind of
this.
the last one we did was a little bit like that, but to a less degree. Like you can
It felt
get
more
away with not.
complete.
You
Yeah.
can at least go in not having any knowledge. But I'll say, as someone who literally knows jack shit about Tekken, I'm like, sure, this
Yeah.
okay. This I think
This
I've
movie
seen this
does
guy
crazy
before. I
things.
think like this looks like every other anime
All right.
jacked dude. I don't know.
My boy Kazuya, all right? This is
Okay.
him. All right, you see he was wearing a purple suit at the end there. I have my boy Kazuya. I also have, because I'm a Tekken fan, I also have the only non-fighting Tekken game, Death by Degrees, starring Tekken's Nino Williams. I have no idea what
Oh,
this game looks like or plays like. I think it plays like the old-ass Ninja Gaiden on the original Xbox. She had her own video game. That's why it's
that's
in the
cool.
background. But yes, I have played. I say I'm a Tekken fan, but I have not played most of these games. I played Tekken Tag Tournament, which came out between 3 and 4, and it was really just Tekken 3, but with the rest of the characters that were not in Tekken 3, and like a tag mode. It was 2v2 in a sense. I played that,
Mhm.
and I played the recent one, Tekken 7. That's it. So I have not
Can,
played.
can I ask a question? This might sound dumb.
All right.
What is a Tekken?
Tekken stands for the Fist of Iron Fist Tournament. Yeah, because I know like in Tekken 7's character select screen, the announcer voice says, "Welcome to the Iron Fist Tournament 7." I'm like, cool. That's what that means. Tekken, that's just like the name.
Okay.
There
I didn't
is
know
that
if it
stuff,
if
but
it like
like,
it was it's like Metroid, right? Like it's
oh, it's a
an
name of a
animal.
thing. Yeah. No,
Yeah, or
okay, that's
like 'cause they
fair.
say Tekken
That's fair.
tournament in the movie. And I'm like, "Oh, is that just the name, but does it mean something in Japanese or something?" So I just wasn't sure. So I'm like, "Let me ask that in
Iron
this
Fist.
episode." I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"What the hell is a Tekken?"
Now, I will say this. I do know some of the story stuff. I don't know really,
Mhm.
and I know like there are characters that have been from the beginning, and this, like, in any fighting game, their characterization is more of just how we remember them in the games rather than their own story stuff. But like, there's three main dudes you need to know, and they pop up in the end. You got Kazuya Mishima. He is the main
Mhm.
character of the franchise, I guess you could say. He's an awful asshole person. He has a genetic gene in him that turns him into fucking the devil. Got it
I
from his
learned
mom.
that. I learned
Yeah.
that by the end, and I was like, "What the fuck is going
His
on?"
father, Heihachi Mishima, does not have the devil gene. Tekken
Oh, he's
7
upset
as a
about that.
Tekken 7 has a
Yeah.
flashback story thing, and he kills his wife because she is Satan. She's like a Japanese like Satan. Um,
Japanese Satan.
Kazuya hates his father, or Kazuya hates his father Heihachi because Heihachi was a terrible, shitty dad, and Heihachi wants to kill his son because his son's the devil, right?
Yeah.
Kazuya has a son named Jin. In the movie, they call him Gene. Uh, Gene.
Yeah. There's
Gene.
Gene and there's Sheen.
His name is Jin. The games say Jin Kazama.
That's how
So
it's
I don't know why.
written. And then when I wrote it down, I'm like, pronounces Gene, like on my
Yeah,
notes, because I was like, that
the
looks
Gene
like Jin,
Genie.
but maybe
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
wrong.
Jin. Jin. That's Jin Kazama.
Gin and juice.
Well, his mom's name is June. Right? She was Tekken 1 and Tekken 2, and she dies. And what's the thing
Oh
I
no.
respect? Not very many fighting games do this. When you kill a character in the story, it's okay if they come back in the next game. Who gives a shit? Tekken gives a shit, and she's not in any of the games since, but she's coming back in Tekken 8, and there's probably some story thing. Spoilers for Tekken 7. Kazuya kills Heihachi, throws his ass in a volcano. That dude
Oh
is
wow.
dead. And I feel for their sake they keep him dead forever. Now, the Tekken Tag Tournament games, there's been two of them, one on PS2 and then one on PS3. These are not canon. We have everyone in here. The goofy shit. June popped back up in both Tekken Tag games because it's not a canon thing. That's where you get your dream match of all the different characters. That's when you can bring Heihachi back. But his ass is dead. I don't care what you're. I like the fact that he's dead. He's not going to be an 8, which is
I mean,
unreleased.
yeah, like in a fighting game, like most of your marketing is the fighter, so I think it's pretty ballsy to be like, nope, they're dead.
Yeah, she's dead. She,
Like, imagine if Mortal Kombat's like, yeah, Scorpion isn't coming back.
yeah. Be like, what?
What do
Yeah.
you mean?
She was a popular character too in Tekken 2. Any case,
Yeah.
so June Kazama's dead. I don't remember how she's dead, but so Jin is motherless and he takes her name. He doesn't like the Mishima name.
Okay.
Jin has the devil gene in it, as you know. And while I don't know the stories of all the games, I do know that he's very conflicted and resents the devil gene, wants to destroy it, and Tekken 8 is based so like if Tekken 7's story was Kazuya versus Heihachi, son versus father, Tekken 8 is that same thing one step down. It's Jin versus Kazuya. Like they're going to fight to the death type of thing, which is fucking cool. That's all I want. That's all I want, really. I'm a big Jin fan. I have no idea what the fuck this movie was doing with him because that's not the Jin I remember. Jin I remember is a good,
Not
good
hashtag not
guy.
my Jin
Yeah,
or
and not some
Gene.
like
Well, they call him Gene to be fair. It could
it's
not actually
fair
be Jin.
alternate history. Maybe he's got a different name. I remember him more of like an emo Japanese brooding, cloud strife type of I hate myself, but I have to be a good person, and not like a Machiavellian angel at the end of this movie. That's Tekken. There's other characters and stuff, and whatever, and they're all doing stuff, but like the Tekken story is literally father versus son, and they all hate each other. Heihachi's
Hmm.
father was in Tekken 5. Jinpachi's his name.
It's funny you're covering all this, considering it really doesn't fucking matter until the
The
last
movie
like 25 minutes of the film.
But before we go like somewhat beat by beat through the movie, I do want to talk about that. And here's my theory. You can view this
Mhm.
movie in two different ways. As a movie tie-in to a video game franchise that's meant to have a story for fans of the video games that love these characters to watch, that maybe fills a gap between events of games, or elaborate on something where it is additive to the experience of the series and not standalone. Or you can pretend that that's not the case is at all, or even pretend the games don't even exist at all. Look at it on its own and see it in a completely different light. Here is my theory
Yes.
on how you can enjoy this movie. So many animes are about an ultimate hero person, and they fight a bad guy, and he one punches them, and everyone's like, ah, awesome. And all these shows have these side fucks around that are like, yeah, you go, you got it. Maybe in one episode in a 30 episode season, they
Yeah.
get to do something cool. Like
They
that's
maybe help
actually
him in some way, and then he learns he
they're
does need his friends or something
exactly.
like that.
But like
Yeah.
they might get one episode where it is about them. Cool, right? That's what this movie is. Up until the point where it reminds you, no, these were side fucks the whole time. There's other things going
It's
on. And
it is interesting.
it's not their intention to be like meta about that. It's not. I can tell you right now, it's not their intention to be meta about that. But if I pretend that it is, I think it's kind of brilliant to be like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on here at the end because they don't. And we've been following these two girls
you
the
don't
whole
know,
time.
like, yeah, you don't know anything about Tekken, the video games. Never played them, never even fucking heard of them. You watch this movie, you're like, Tekken Blood Vengeance, this seems like a cool anime. And you like pop it in. You're like, okay. It's kind of like a lot of the, young adults or teen anime movies, Persona, even if you want to look
It's
at
got
video
some high
games.
school in it.
Yeah, it's got some high school. It has some high school
Pedophiles
drama.
like high school.
There's some high school drama in it, and all the other anime bullshit you get with that, which I actually really enjoyed in this film.
Yeah.
That was like, they're actually kind of funny, and I don't know if it's the funny in the way that they were trying to make it. I have like a whole list of quotes on my phone, and I usually only get like 3 solid ones to choose from. I feel like I have 25 that I could have picked for this episode. I've written down so much. I think I wrote down actual just dialogue like back and forth because I'm like, this is hilarious. I am laughing because it just of the. We watched the English dub, by the way. We didn't watch it Japanese subtitles, so maybe the jokes aren't as funny. But the English dub is hilarious.
Speaking about the English dub, do you like the very beginning of the movie?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil that. That's for our secret. But no, I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, okay, this is not what I was expecting, and it's kind of funny and goofy and doesn't take itself too seriously. Then the last 25 minutes, it's like fucking Dragon Ball Z with characters you've never heard of or should care about, because you made me care about these 2 characters who are kind of just like left in the battlefield. So yeah, I think I kind of agree with you. It's low-key brilliant because it's kind of like a ridiculous. It's more anime than actual anime to a degree.
In a sense.
Yep, we made this. We have them fight even. She's literally a Chainsaw Man, basically. That Hulu, that's on Hulu, which I watched a couple episodes of. Yeah, I watched a couple episodes of it. But yeah, it has all that like the anime I've watched, not that much, but enough to know, or it reminds me a lot of Persona, even with like the quirky humor, like, oh, he's so hot, and like, oh, I have a crush on him. Oh, we're competing. Like I'm like, oh, that's so dumb. And it's like you laugh at that. It's funny. Or the scene when in the shower there, where like they're trying to like peek at him. They both run away, but then he is talking to a soldier in the shower, and I'm like that, and I'm like, that's actually really funny, like,
and just the fact
like
that
all that
he
stuff,
was
and then they just like completely cut it to like the high octane Dragon Ball Z lasers.
Yeah.
Then there's he's a golem thing at the end. Like,
they didn't even want to tell you what a Mokujin is in this movie. I didn't even know that's what their names. In Tekken Tag Tournament, again, I've only played 2 of these games. Tekken Tag Tournament, which is goofy. It's a dream match thing. Had a character, I guess his name was Mokujin. He's not a tree man. I call him a cut log man. Because he's literally like, if you cut logs, and then you have a torso, a head, a nose, like, 2 of them.
He's Frosty the Snowman, but
made of
Frosty
logs.
the log man. Yeah.
And you fight, and he's just dumb, right? And there's other ones of them, I guess. Maybe. But I'm like you can play as a kangaroo. You can play as a T-Rex, or not, as a Velociraptor in Tekken Tag Tournament with boxing gloves, because it was dumb. So I just figured he was just like that. But
there's a panda that like kind of talks, but not. Also, by the way, just in all of this,
the panda's a girl. I'm pretty sure. She's a play. So there's Panda and there's Kuma. Kuma being Japanese for bear. He's just a brown bear.
Okay.
Kuma, at the very least,
I do not know any of this shit.
Kuma,
you can be bullshitting me right now. I'm like, sure, I believe it.
Panda's in some of the games. She's in Tekken 7, but Kuma's in every single one of these Tekken games, and he sucks, and Panda sucks too. They are legitimately low, objectively low tier characters because it's a 3D fighting game and they cannot sidestep, and they basically have almost no mobility. But it's funny to have a bear in the game, and they like having the bear in the game because they think it's funny. So even though he sucks, they throw it in there. That's what I think. One of the things I like about Tekken is that there's just this legacy of having a bad character in the game. And yeah, when someone won not Evo, but some tournament as Panda, I think a year ago almost. And it's because well, everyone fights against Jin. They train against Jin because he's a top performing character. No one trains against Panda. So Panda player won
That's
because,
awesome.
you know,
I
I like
respect the
that.
hell out of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. That's big clout right there.
Yeah. I interrupted you. I forgot where you were going with that, but
No, I was just gonna say that like this is two movies, but I kind of like it. I really enjoyed this movie. Maybe I didn't like the ending because it felt so out of place compared to the tone of the rest of the movie. Like I don't mind the like I said, like Persona where there's the action interwoven with the high school drama, the goofy dialogue, the jokes and whatnot. That's cool. I like that shit. That's one of the reasons I like when you got me Persona. You're like, hey, just try this, and I wound up really liking the actual story more than the combat, which I thought was
right.
gonna be the other way around. Um, this is I get the same thing with this. I'm like, I kind of care more about these two girls than I do about what the fuck is this family who is this who's the corporation G. They mention him like 4 times and we
That's
kind of forget
Kazuya's
about him,
company. Here's the
and then
thing.
they come back
Kazuya
again.
wants to rule the world. There's two women. The movie opens with Nina and Anna fighting. I like these
Which
two.
reminded me a lot of the Matrix, by the way. This opening,
Okay,
like
I can see
I get
that.
Matrix vibes from that.
I mean, hey, if you're able to crash a truck with your motorcycle,
Yeah.
somehow I like the idea of Nina and Anna, and I guess they like Nina because she had her own video game. I have not played Death by Degrees featuring Tekken's Nina Williams. Full title. That's the full title of the video game. They need to make a sequel to
Oh
that.
shit.
But I like from my understanding of the series, Anna works for G Corp. Anna, the redhead, works for Kazuya. Anna works for this guy. Not this guy, that's Terry Bogard. He's from King of Fighters and Fatal Fury. She works for Kazuya Mishima. Okay, we gotta remember that.
Sure.
Nina works with Jin. She gets Jin to help her. And I understand there was some sort of because I didn't play Tekken's 4, 5, and 6. Jin doesn't I don't think he necessarily goes in the whole overlord thing that his father is doing. But this, he's a bit more of a good person, but also like an underdog when this movie shows them as equals, and that's not the case at all. Um, I think Kazuya literally has a satellite shoot a laser beam at him in one, or maybe it was Heihachi in one of the games.
the
Destroys a building with
Tekken's
a
a
laser
lot more
beam.
wild than I thought. Man, I'm completely just in the dark. I guess I thought I had like a basic knowledge, but even
Oh,
after watching this
it's
movie and what
insane.
you're telling me, no, I don't know shit.
Side note, completely unrelated. One of the things I love about Tekken, and they brag about this, but they're not consistent about it. The characters speak their own languages. Jin and Kazuya, they speak Japanese, but Paul speaks American English. You know, like the
Yeah,
Brazilian person speaks Portuguese. Like they speak their language. Okay, the Swedish person she just speaks Japanese. We don't get a Swedish person to say to speak for him, but you know what I mean. Like that's I
yeah.
think a somewhat of a cool thing. So this movie is actually the first time that these characters have had English voices, or in Zhao Yu's case, a Japanese voice too, because she's Chinese. Although considering her story, maybe she also knows Japanese. I don't know. She's a legacy character and she's a fan favorite, so that's probably why she had her be, I guess, the main character. But I forgot where I was before. Yeah, Nina and Anna are rivals, and they fight each other. their default costumes in Tekken 7, Nina's in a wedding dress, which I think is funny because she's undercover or something like that. It opens with them fighting. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go let all that, but then it's just not at all. I guess they were gonna be setting up a sequel that never happened.
I
Um,
got that too. I'm like, oh, I'm like, is this going into a game or another
yeah,
movie? But I'm like, I kind of want a TV show with my two girls there. I want to know more what's happened with their
well,
lives. What do they do after this?
well,
They're just. Well, also I love the ending, by the way, of just like, I know you're gonna come and fight me, so I'll see you then. Basically, and I'm like, why? Why would you fight?
that's
Why would I care?
again. He's
Based
like
off everything else
another
that's
level
happened,
there.
I would be like, you know what? I'm good fighting the Satan. You know, like I might just stick with going to school and just living a normal life with my
Yeah,
robot friend and
and
my
my
panda.
panda.
That seems like a much cooler life, non-dangerous life. I don't need to fight Devil May Cry, man. All right, I don't
Yeah,
need, I
yeah.
don't need that.
Yeah, and that's again, that's where the alternate thing is because Jin would never be like, "I win, I am the Devil Man forever." Like that's not what he wants to do. He wants to get rid of. He
I
wants to
know
purge
that
it
you.
from
No,
himself.
I wrote the quote down. What's the full quote here? I know one day you'll come to defeat me, and I'll be waiting. Then I wrote LOL.
It's so dumb, so dumb. They did my boy Jin real dirty. Um, but I have actually a fun fact for you.
Okay.
This film. Well, okay. Need to take a step
This
back. This
this
film,
film,
this film
this
was
art.
was directed by Mori, and
Uh-huh.
screenplay was done by Dai Sato. It was not written or directed or anything to do with the game's series producer Harada, who is a G among G Corp, maybe even if there's a corporation of G's, he's the G. Number one, he's a short king, so okay, cool. Like he's like me, he's close. He's probably shorter
I
than
know
me,
you
which means
got it.
he's more of a king.
You both have to stick together.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You know how like kids on Twitter will harass the Smash Brothers director and be like, "You gotta put the Minecraft man in the game. You gotta put my obscure Nintendo character in the game, or where's Crash Bandicoot?" And like the only time he ever tweets just in English is just to say, "Please stop harassing me." There's a sign of who's harassing Americans. Um, Harada takes the other tactic where his now famous quote is "Don't ask me for shit," and he wears a T-shirt that says that to events. That
That's
says
awesome.
"Don't ask me for shit," and he walks around. So I love Harada, and he's also like a cool guy. He has a YouTube channel where he invites game developers to a bar he owns and makes them drinks, and they talk about fighting games. Yeah, I love this man. He's
He's
not
a
really
simple. It
attached
sounds
to
like
this
he
movie.
has a simple life. You know,
Yeah, he's got an
he
awesome.
has his morals
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
sticks to them.
He's also one of the few people that will talk shit about other people in the industry. Where like, they're the guy that did Soul Calibur 5. That game was not good, poorly received, and that someone asked on Twitter, I think before Soul Calibur 6 was even announced, what was going on with Soul Calibur, and he said, "Nah, that dude quit." And like they don't talk like that. The other Japanese game developers don't talk like that. That's why I love Harada. He's not attached to this movie besides the fact that it's a part of his. He oversaw it to some degree, right? So
He read the script and he was like, "Oh, oh,
alternate history.
sure,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah."
gonna
Can you
decide
put
this right
alternate
now.
on that?
Yeah, yeah,
Are you
yeah.
sure this is Tekken? Like halfway through, you had the beginning there, but then you what?
Yeah. But the actual animation house, the production company that made this movie is called Digital Frontier. In an
Sonic
awesome,
Frontiers.
yeah,
Oh,
Sonic Digital Frontier. In an awesome twist of fate, they did the last movie we watched a week ago. They did Resident Evil
okay. We gotta
Degeneration.
give them some credit then, because I
Yeah,
think they came a long way. I
yeah.
think they came in what 4 years,
No, 3.
3 years.
Yep. So basically, 2008 was Resident Evil Degeneration, and then 2009 was a movie called Summer Wars, and then this
Oh, that
movie.
sounds cool. What's that?
I have
Summer
no
Wars
idea.
one.
It's probably an anime. They did a Pokemon movie.
It's like beach volleyball, but it's
Yeah.
war.
Their last movie came
Summer
out
Wars.
last year, an anime I did hear about called Bell, which I did
Okay.
want to see. It's a movie. In any case, after Tekken Blood Vengeance, they made the next Resident Evil animated movie, which we will maybe someday watch, Resident Evil Damnation.
Oh hell
Um,
yeah! I want to
so
see if they kept stacking. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Cause we had some issues with the animation a little bit. It was a little stiff at moments and wasn't the best overall. It looked a little dated for sure, but this I feel like holds up a lot, and
a
it's
lot better.
what
Yeah, yeah.
12 years old.
I wish we could get a
So
4K version of this movie. This movie is
I
in
mean, yeah,
3D.
considering we watched it at 720p, it looks pretty
Yeah,
damn good.
with a
Yeah.
pretty bad bit rate too. If I had planned ahead of time, I could have. Well, I don't own a 3D TV, but I do own a 3DS, and the Tekken 3D Prime on Nintendo 3DS has this movie in it.
Oh,
And Tekken Hybrid, which is a PS3 game containing an HD port of Tekken Tag Tournament, a demo of Tekken Tag Tournament 2, which has its own trophy list, which is interesting, and this movie in 3D. So there are ways to buy it on Blu-ray, I guess essentially is by buying Tekken Hybrid. I
we need to
think
get a
it's
sequel like Kickstarted for this. I
we
think with
do.
the
We
same
do.
animation studio, and we
Well,
can run it. We'll just be
Digital
like we're
Frontier.
focusing strictly on our two girls. Fuck all that other shit. And halfway through the movie, they realize they don't need to fight them because they're better than that. They don't
Now,
need that petty shit.
I do have well, I understand if that's what you want for a sequel.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, if there was a sequel to be planned, it would not star the two of them. It would star two other
Why?
girls instead in the
Who?
series. It would star, oh man, I had it written down somewhere. Do. The idea this for this movie is an old school character and a new school character being teamed up, and the same thing was he wanted to do with a potential sequel, and it was going to be Asuka and Lily. Asuka was a Tekken 5 character, and Lily is a she's also Tekken 5. Interesting. I'm thinking about someone else, but yeah, two also girls. Interesting. That they wanted to do that. But yeah, there is a Netflix animated miniseries that is more of a retelling of Tekken 3. That has blood in the name, so it's easy to in searching get the Netflix thing popped up instead of this.
Mm.
But I think unrelated in that
There's
sense.
a lot of
But
blood out there in Tekken.
yeah, lots of blood in the Tekken streets.
Tekken's the only fighting game known for its blood.
It's true. Only blood. Tekken, I respect Tekken because it's hard to play. These characters have, and I shit you not, over 200 moves each. Like, y'all got to be up on
Yeah,
top
you
of
gotta
that
be
shit.
really
It's tough.
technical,
Tactic,
tech, tech, tech,
Tekken. Yeah.
technical.
They made a Pokemon fighting game called Pokken or Pokken.
Yo, are you poking me right
Yeah,
now?
yeah,
You want to
yeah,
go, dude?
yeah, yeah. And the
I know
Tekken
that.
team is
That's
the
cool.
team that makes Smash Brothers. They're hired to
Oh,
make Smash. It's Tekken team. Yeah, that makes the Smash Brothers
are
games.
you Tekken kidding me right now?
Yeah. All right, but back to the movie itself. Is that's a bit of the context, and yeah, Digital Frontier made this after making another movie, and
Okay,
then
we gotta give them some applause
yeah,
because
yeah,
they did. I feel like come a long way in 3 years. Because this looked really good, aged. I think pretty well considering what we watched it
fluid
on.
characters
Very
move more
fluid,
fluidly, and in ways that feel
and the
realistic, even
action
when they're
looked really
fast.
good.
Yeah,
Action looked really good, which actually makes me excited if we ever go to the other Resident Evil movies. From what we've seen, it kind of makes sense now.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Digital Frontier also made they worked on a bunch of cutscenes for video games.
Okay.
They actually made all of maybe not all of. I assume all of, but they made a bunch of the CG cutscenes that introduced new characters into Smash Brothers. So all those like, Mewtwo or I don't know, he's here to battle. They actually were the animation house that made those, but they worked primarily on lots of Tekken, lots of Resident Evil, lots of Yakuza, a little bit of Metal Gear,
Oh.
um, and an Onichibara game, which is eventually on the list of movies
I
that
was
we're
gonna
going to be watching.
say.
Yeah. The last video game that they worked on that's credited on Wikipedia for them is Resident Evil 3's remake in 2020. So, but they've also worked on live action stuff and TV animes and lots of stuff like that. So, yeah, kudos to them.
Cool.
They made they did the damn thing. You know, they didn't write the movie.
But
They
they
just
did the damn thing.
they
Yeah.
did the damn thing. They did the damn thing. I'll say when I watching the movie for the first time, um, I was
Man,
like,
you watched it multiple times.
no, no, okay. We're watching it yesterday.
Yeah.
Um,
Ethan's been having it on repeat nonstop. He loves
yeah,
it
yeah,
so
yeah.
much. Yeah.
You know it. This movie won an award in Japan for its 3D effects, so they must be good, I guess. But whatever. Watching in the movie, I'm like, okay, not knowing anything about it. Um, I saw the poster, but just because the two of them are in the front of it doesn't necessarily mean it's about them. I just guess what I thought. But I'm like, all right, where is my boy Jin? Or at least Kazuya, you know, this guy right here.
You were looking for the
Um,
characters, yeah,
yeah,
the
I'm
main
looking
the
for
main
them. Yeah, I'm
guys.
like, where are these where are these boys? I want my boys. I want them to fight each other. You know what's going on here? We start to get maybe a little bit of that, and then when we hop to Zhao Yu and what's her name, Alyssa, I'm like, oh, okay, this is. I realize now this is actually just about them and this stupid Shin guy. Oh, that sucks. And then I start to actually like them pretty quickly. I start to like them, although I don't really like Sheen at all. Fuck that guy.
Yeah,
Although
he's a little weird,
I
but
I
I
have a
guess he's a
theory.
mutant man, whatever.
I
So
have a theory.
he's an
And
X
then
Man.
I'm like invested in them, and then when we get to the guys I wanted to see in the first place show up, I'm like, stop, go away. I don't want you two here.
Exactly.
These three here. So I will say, like, this movie made me like these side characters a lot more, and made me want to know their story more. Um, I was gonna say I find it very funny that Sheen, who by the way is not in any of the Tekken games, he was an original character for this movie.
Okay.
And they thought about adding him into a Tekken game, but he knows no martial arts, so they decided not to. Like, all right, I guess this guy didn't really plan. What was he gonna do? That's why I think it's kind of funny. He dies like a bitch. He just bitches out in this movie. Heihachi
I don't.
breaks him in half.
I think it's lame. Don't get me wrong, but I think it was just more like he set all this up so that he could just finally be free and not exist. Because I think that's what he's
Yes.
been trying to do from the beginning. I think it's a shitty character arc and just I don't know, pretty morbid.
Yeah.
So I don't. But yeah, when he died, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. He went. But also, and I'm not blaming his voice actor or anything, but like he has moments where he's like soft spoken, but then also moments where he's like trying to be flirty or like
Oh,
the hot guy at school, like knowing that he's hot, and it's just like there was no in between. I think it just didn't make. He felt very
yeah.
forced and just not that the voice actor did bad, but just like the dialogue they were given and what they had to
Script.
do just didn't. It just
Yeah.
didn't work because yeah, he'll say shit like
Yes, that was-
how we're all pawns, and like he'll say shit like that, but then he'll also say, "See you soon, my fair maidens."
right, right.
Like what the fuck? Like
The
it's
douche-
that doesn't
douchebag.
that clashes. You can't be
Yeah.
like this. I feel you can't be this like holier than thou or whatever, just superficial, whatever adjective you want to use for that kind of person, and then be like, "Oh, I am a playboy. I am the hottest shit in
Yeah.
town. Everyone wants to be with me. I'm playing everyone like a fiddle." Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Like, don't get me wrong. The overall like plot of the movie is poorly written, where like things will be introduced, and then he like as concepts, like the school popularity contest, just so you can have one scene to then just piggyback to something else. They made it
Yeah.
seem as if that was at least going to be something, and it was
A
not
big deal, some sort
Like,
of
it
event
was
that was
just
going to happen.
not at all.
Quickly,
It was just-
quickly cut
It
off.
was brought out of the blue, and then it goes away out of the blue. Like, okay, I guess we're moving on. This movie does a lot of stuff that's like that, and yeah, that character is just plot.
But I think that
moving
shows he's
person.
actually I guess a physical manifestation of one issue I have with this movie is that there's no like I feel like there's no theme. Like there's no like message I'm supposed to come away with it because I feel like they threw so many messages out there, but then never talked about them again or didn't like reiterate it or like find some sort of plot line to like continue it. like the whole like we're all pawns to someone. Like okay, I kind of get that. Like okay, at the end, like everyone was trying to play each other, but no one really played each other because there's just fucking opportunity for all of them to beat the shit out of each other. And
It's all I want to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
like oh, they could have just did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
That's why I like to
or yeah,
believe
just
that
like
the side
the only
fucks are
thing that
the main characters idea we mentioned
yeah,
earlier.
but but if anything, like the whole like refrigerator thing, I'm like that could have been more. Like I want more of that. Like that was cute. That was like a sense of warmth and like bond between them. That like even though she's a robot and she's a person, they still are connecting and they're learning from each other. And like that's cool. That's the only theme I really like, or like yeah, theme that they kind of like pushed, and it wasn't enough for me even with that. But then yeah, the characters are just saying random dialogue that just sounds cool, but really it's just nothing. Like it
Yep.
just, or I don't have any. If there is something to it, I'm missing context. Maybe I didn't play the games, like you said. That maybe they mentioned
You're
this
not
more.
missing context.
You know.
I don't
So,
think.
but the dialogue I did like was the more comedic bits. Like you're a voyeur, aren't you? I thought that was fucking hilarious. There was they were like making jokes about like I need to have like a catchphrase kind of thing to like do my superpower move. I'm like that's a
Yeah.
cool play on like all these fighting games. They whether it's Street Fighter saying his whatever his thing is to shoot his fireball,
Hadouken.
Hadouken, yeah, whatever, or Scorpion saying get over here, that kind of shit. Like it's goofy and cheesy, but it's cool cheese, that we look for. So I'm glad they like mentioned that. So there's like a lot of I think good moments of dialogue, but it's all just like shit that you would not maybe necessarily think of in a Tekken movie. Like I said, going back to anime, I'm like, this is good like anime dialogue, but like the plot's bad. I feel like they want a big fight, but they did so much setup with these two girls that it doesn't really matter. I didn't care about that fight. If anything, I want it to be over with so I can know what happens to them
Yeah. Yeah. I have
more,
issues with the fights themselves. They go too fast and too crazy too quickly, and then they're over. Obviously, the big long one at the end is the big long one, but like when I think of Tekken, I distill my mind. You know, I think of fast but technical martial arts, not like there's no fireball. There's no, high jump. They jump like normal people. You can't jump over someone in Tekken. The characters that can are the guest characters from Street Fighter or King of Fighters, and they carry that gameplay with them, which is neat. But like, you can't jump over someone. And like it's very technical fighting. What I love about the Tekken games is if I watch, gameplay of them, I see two people beat ass and it looks cool. And while not against anime fighting and stuff like that this movie does do, I wish I got to see, a CG animator's take on Tekken combat, because everyone has their own different martial arts and stuff like whenever these fighting games do. Like, just I want to see at least one fight that's like that, so I can be like, oh, that's their move. Like, there was a brief moment where like Kazuya has the electric on his hand. I'm like, that's kind of like Electric God Windfist or whatever the phrase is that he kind of does. But then like you don't really actually get to see any of those. The closest thing I think of is when Zhao Yu does her like pose with her arms and she's hanging low. That is one of her stances in Tekken, where she gets low. Because Tekken is a series about stances. Characters will have completely different
Yeah.
move lists when they're in a different stance. And she's a complicated character because of how her stances work in Tekken. So like I recognize that. I'm like, that's cool, but like for the most part, it's just anime fighting. And I do wonder, again, Digital Frontier, it's not like Namco themselves had an internal team that has worked on the video games. I guess these Digital Frontier did work on cutscenes in Tekken, to be fair. But like, so I guess they were knowledgeable on Tekken. Okay, I can take that back a bit, but I will say it probably would take more effort to try to make it the fights feel close to the games and have them be cool than just this instead. So maybe this was easier and this was easier to write because they beat each other up. You know what I mean? But I do
Yeah.
have
I
a
mean,
little bit of an issue with the fights themselves.
I actually didn't mind the fights. I mean, I like the fights with like when uh we got our first fight between uh what's their names there?
Nina and Anna.
Yeah, like I like that beginning one, like just to kind of set the tone. But also, like I said, I haven't played the games enough to know their like stances and shit. So overall, I think I liked the fights. I didn't care too much about the ending fight because I wasn't invested in the characters' like well being. Like
Yeah.
when how do you say her name again? Joy
Jiayu,
Jiayu, and
Alyssa.
I'm Alyssa. Awful
I was
names.
reading them too. Don't worry.
I have the IMDb up. I'm still struggling. But like their first fight when she has the chainsaw arms, I was like, oh shit, she was holding back before. Now she's like going for the kill, and like I was actually feeling like no, why are they fighting? I like their like combination, and then like
Her head
and then when
explodes.
they yeah, but then eventually like the we get the big boys fighting, and like it was fine. I did like how the main guy there Hayachi
Hmm.
gets like gets punched a billion times and then gets hit outside the wall, then falls off a cliff. I'm like, that's cool. I did like how they were like going through what felt like 50 floors, beating each other up, and they're not like bleeding or anything. I think that's cool. But a lot of it I have seen in Dragon Ball Z and other shit like this, which I don't think is bad, but I can see from your perspective if like I've played the games, I want to see their actual fighting styles be used. I mean, like I can think of that with like Mortal Kombat movie, that the newest one, that I'd be pretty disappointed if they didn't incorporate some of the move sets or abilities, you know what I mean, in the movies. If they just like what we saw with the Mortal Kombat Armageddon, where it's just two dudes in outfits trying to guess how to fight, it's bad.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is just fine. I generally enjoyed it, but I guess I just didn't care too much about the final fight once it turned into beams and Devilman,
Yeah.
which like kind of look cool. But I'm like, once again, I don't really care about these characters because I don't really know anything about them besides they have beef, and now you're making it the center point.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why my headcanon, I like my headcanon of this was intentional. The story was about how you are not the main character. And like again, like I mean you can even think of it this way. Alyssa, so like there's a moment, Jin, he's like low and he's like hurt. And Kazuya he's walking up, I'm gonna beat you up. And Alyssa gets in between the two of them. Like, you gotta stop. Jin deactivates her, and Kazuya steps on her, which crushes her in half. That's how little she means to them, and they're on a completely different level. Well, that sucks for the sake of the
Yeah,
story, in my opinion. I can see that as being amplifying a point that I would like to think is the thing of like, um, how disposable you can be when in one of these animes where like
that goes back to the
Goku
whole
is the
pawn
big
thing. If that's
boy.
a theme that they're trying to establish, they should have just stuck with that one instead of trying to do so many of these. It felt like I said, a bunch of just hollow words. I feel like they had attempts, but just weren't good attempts, or they weren't solidifying it. And I feel like that would have been a good opportunity to be like, for them to learn, like you were just saying, that like, oh, we're pawns of these bigger people. Know your friends and know who your allies are, and choose your battles, kind of thing. But like, it just is really lost in the sauce because I think they
Yeah.
focused too much on the action uh, for the last half of that movie, and yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's so weird. It's like a weird light and day kind of film. Like it just escalates to a level that you couldn't even predict.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what else gets lost in the sauce? The character of Lee, the teacher. Like
What the?
he's a character in Tekken and he
I'm
fights.
still yeah. He also
But
had
like
that
what
weird
purpose was he in this
playboy
movie?
energy, a rich man,
Yeah.
kind of
And he has a
just
job
creepy.
though.
Yeah, he's a teacher. He has a passion for it. At least they show it, and then he's not
Yeah.
teaching anybody, which is kind of funny. But then he's
Yeah.
also rich and has like this.
And he's okay with his house being destroyed by strangers.
Yeah, his last line is like, or his last like couple lines were like, "Oh, are you just? Why are you doing this? oh, I'm doing this to humiliate her, and then he's like,
He's like,
excellent,
okay,
yeah, or
yeah,
whatever. Like
like
what?
what?
This, why are you okay with that? You're so weird. You're mysterious,
Yeah,
but not in a
yeah,
cool way.
no, no, very weird. He was announced for Tekken 8. Okay, whatever. He's weird. I don't know. I made him think of someone else. He's a somewhat classic character. I'm thinking of a character named Lars. Lee is a somewhat classic character. I don't know how far back he goes, so I don't remember him in Tekken Tag 1, but he's a character. He's a weird one. A couple other characters pop up. Ganryu is the sumo guy that is the one that expels Zhao Yu at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
Didn't realize he was a gym teacher. Maybe that was just for the sake of this movie as a cameo. Um, yeah, there's that.
principal
Uh,
my butt. That's
yeah,
another one
yeah.
I had. My other original
Um,
quote, by the way, in that scene was, "I think I've heard way too much psychobabble for one day."
that works. That
But
works.
then you went with the romance arc, so I'm like, I'll go for the hot one.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah,
There we go. And I found very funny. Two things I found funny. So she finds a photograph of Sheen with his test subject numbers on him, and he's walking, he's looking over. Yeah, it's really weird that they took that photo at all. Um, and it doesn't make any sense, but like whatever. And that he would hold that photo. That's very much. It was not a pose that they did. They did not set that photo up, so it was an accidental thing. Whatever. What I also find funny is that when they go to the lab underneath Mishima Polytechnic High School or whatever, and they look at the photograph like, oh, this is the place in the photograph behind them. They think that, and yes, it's for the sake of the movie, yes, that is what happened. They think that that room is important when my first thought is, no, it's the people and maybe even where the photograph was taken, which is on the opposite end of the hall. But like, no,
yeah,
this the backdrop of the photograph must be. And then they go in there and she's like, the seventh book and the eighth number and the
that
letter M
was
in the
a
book. I'm
stretch of a riddle, or
like we didn't
I'm
even
like, it's
have
not just a
the problem was not presented. You just walked
yeah.
up with a solution and you pulled the book off and it worked out. And I was half expecting it to just be stupidly wrong and have that be a joke.
That
I'm
would
like,
have
oh
been
no,
funny. Yeah, that
yeah,
would have been
yeah,
funny.
yeah, whatever. I guess it's just she's just
I
that
thought,
smart.
I guess, yeah, because I thought it was just like a code name, just like a
Yeah,
test number, blah blah blah.
yeah, he's 78M, and it somehow works out in the puzzle. Okay, but it is what it is. Um, Animation quality, because we didn't really talk about that yet. I think is obviously a step up from Resident Evil Degeneration. Um, but it's still not like crazy crazy either. It definitely looks 20, in the 2010s.
But
For a
a
direct to
good
video.
2010s where it ages well. That's best
And I
way to
don't think
describe it.
they don't try to go too crazy with what's going on. Yeah, in the ending fight there, you have laser beams destroying a building, but like it's whatever. And yeah, I can tell the visual quality of Alyssa and Zhao Yu running through, Kyoto and all the other, just random people look of a lesser quality. I get it. They stand out, sure. But overall, I think it just looked a little bit better. People moved a little bit more fluidly.
I
Certain
think they
scenes
came a
were
long way,
blocked
to be
better,
sure. I don't know if their budget was bigger or they just got better at doing that. I don't know
Yeah.
what it was, but yeah, I think they did a pretty good job, especially after we just watched the movie that they did previously, and we were like kind of
Yeah.
critiquing that. But I guess it makes me more excited. I think I said earlier, like that makes me more excited for like the Resident Evil other animated movies to see like if they got
Yeah.
even better as time went on.
Unfortunately, uh they're not on the list of movies we're watching this year. Maybe next time we can do it more of like let's knock out our series. So it's not like in 3 years we'll finally be done with Persona and Resident Evil. I don't know. We'll figure that out there. But I do like how we have this going on. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about on this movie?
I'll just say, like, I think I had a fun time watching it. I wasn't bored compared to the last one we watched, where I feel like I was kind of just not into it, like not vibing with it. I vibe with this a lot until the last 20 minutes of that big fight, where I'm like, Sure, sure. Okay, cool. The dialogue kept me in it, whether it was intentional or not. Like you said, the whole story, whether it was intentional or not, I was interested in their backstory, their relationships, their humor, all that. Yeah, I had a really fun time with this movie. And I think it's overall just pretty solid, but I just feel like that last half they didn't land
Yeah.
they didn't land the landing. They didn't execute it at the end there well enough to where I'm like coming out of it being like, hell yeah, that was like this is a diamond in the rough kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like this is uh it's hard to really gauge where like just it feels like I said, two different movies almost.
Yep. And I will say this: the movie does not fail the Bechtel test. Multiple women talk to each other, and most of the time, it is not about boys or
And
love.
honestly, I really liked that. It felt like that way too. That like I thought for a long time too that it was gonna be, um, uh, what was it? Nina and once
Anna.
again, Anna. Yeah, I had it right. Nina, Anna in my head. How they were. I thought it would be about them too, like being like behind the thing, behind the scenes, and then like the we would get them teaming up uh against them at the end, and I thought that would be cool. Like, oh, this is about the women in this, the women of Tekken, maybe like unintentionally or intentionally. I don't know which, but yeah, I just feel like they just I don't know. I saw them just very confused by the ending, but
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Boys got to step in and make the movie land the plane. You know what I mean? I had fun with it. I'm obviously joking there. I had fun with the movie. I'm disappointed in it greatly, but I mean, I was surprised that it was actually funny in some moments. I did actually find our two leads there, Xiao Yu and Alyssa, funny. I liked the fact that Alyssa has a Dyson vacuum cleaner plugged into her back to recharge her.
And it unplugs
Um,
at one point too, which I thought was
yeah,
funny. That
yeah,
like
yeah,
in a tussle, it unplugs and she plugs it back in.
yeah. Um, Yeah, there are most moments of it that surprised me. It was not the movie I wanted, you know what I mean? And I doubt it was the movie that a lot of people wanted of Tekken fans. But I was not that upset by it. And again, my headcanon is what I want to believe about this movie, even though I know it's probably not the case. Um, Now we gotta rank and talk about this movie. So, folks that have not watched previously, or hey, maybe you just need a bit of a catch up. We watched plenty of movies on the Sonic Movie Show that are video game movies. Video game movies, more often than not, are not that great of movies. They could be fun. Hey, like this movie. Some of them are amazing. Some of them do what they need to do. Some of them fail what they need to do. So we grade a bit on the curve here. So when we talk about our tiers and rankings, understand that it is about video game movies, and we're not comparing it to Shawshank and Citizen Kane. You know what I mean? It's the Detective
The
Pikachu and Sonic.
yeah
You know what
yeah
I mean? So, but just to reiterate, this is what each tier generally means. Hey, we have some movies here that we have ranked previously. A brief
for
example on
reference.
stuff as referencing. Yeah. We begin with the S tier, the cream of the crop, the ones who are like, I don't really know what else they could do besides give me a sequel right now. This includes Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Detective Pikachu, and Prince of Persia: The Sands of
Ones
Time.
that you actually could put on the TV for your friends who don't give two shits about video games and probably can get away with it.
Yep. Your family will
Honestly.
watch Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and like it. Your
Yeah.
grandma's going to watch Prince of Persia and be like, oh, that Jake Gyllenhaal.
How
I should
he
have married him.
Woo-wee.
Yeah. A movies are ones that are not above and beyond, but they're amazing in their own right. These are films that do everything they needed to do and had just a little bit more going for them, to the point where they're like really fun. This includes the Street Fighter movie, which is not a Marshall movie, but it was a GI Joe movie in a sense, and
Yeah, and
we
it was
like
cool.
that. We had the Mortal Kombat 2021 movie, which was visually stunning and it did the things it needed to do, and it was awesome, as well as the original Super Mario Brothers movie and the Uncharted movie from last year. B,
Mhm.
these are the movies that do what they need to do They're not quite there, but they're certainly not bad. These
They're
are
like
fun
solid.
movies.
They're
Yeah.
solid. They're fun.
This
Yeah.
includes the crazy DOA Dead or Alive movie, which I want to see that movie again just because of how weird and wacky
It's
it is.
it's
Um,
definitely one to get drunk and watch.
the
For
original Silent
sure.
Hill, the original Resident Evil, and the original Mortal Kombat movies are all in B tier for this reason. The C tier of the movies are like, this is a movie. There's things to like, and there are boring shit in this too. A lot of movies are on the C tier. Final Fantasy VII
Unfortunately, yeah.
Advent Children is on here. That's a boring movie that has some fun action scenes, but it's
At the
marred
end,
by
mostly.
bad,
Yeah.
marred by bad character development. Half the Resident Evil movies are in here, including last one's Resident Evil Degeneration. I did not add this to this graphic, but it's in there. It's down there, and I actually realized I don't think I put in our first movie, which was Tomb Raider, in the A group, but that was in there too. We'll get to them in a second. But yeah, movies that do things good and things bad. We have the D tier here. This includes the boring movies. These are movies like Assassin's Creed and Doom, Final Fantasy Spirits Within. There was a Hitman movie. Do you remember when we watched that?
Yeah.
Timothy
Kinda.
Oliphant was the Hitman.
I just remember the subway scene. That's pretty much it.
Same. And the Warcraft movie. Everyone remembers the Warcraft movie.
Looked
Then,
brilliant, but it just who cares?
yeah, who cares, right? Then we have the
Name one
E
character.
rank. E rank is for bad movies. Bad. Not just boring, but bad movies.
Badly
We're
made,
talking
badly
Monster Hunter,
executed.
The
Yeah.
King of Fighters, Blood Rain, and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And we have a special tier, the F tier. I like to call this the Nazi tier. We could call this the offensive tier. These movies, and there's only one right now.
Crimes against humanity tier. Really.
These movies are like, what the fuck did you do this for? If you're trying to be edgy, you failed. You're just bad. Postal is the only movie on this tier.
I hope that's
Probably
the
be like
only
that for a
movie we ever
while,
put
yeah.
there. I hope we don't. We'll see. Maybe other Uwe Boll movies. Luckily, one of his movies, Blood Rain, got into the E tier because it wasn't offensively bad. I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't racist or whatever.
Yep. And Michelle Rodriguez in it, so you know that's at least a step up.
Yeah, you get at least a
yeah.
star for that. Yeah.
Any case, we move on to this season of the Sonic Movie Show, and we have 12 movies on our list. We watched Tomb Raider, the 2018 film. We watched Resident Evil Degeneration last week, and we watched Tekken Blood Vengeance today. So we're 3 movies in. We're going to rank this movie. We're going to give it a tier. Not a ranking, but a tier. Which has a point value. You can see off to the side here. S tier is 6 points. A tier is 5. We go 4 for B, 3 for C, 2 for D, 1 for E, and 0 for F. We should just put that as an N for Nazi. But F is 0 points. We do have a bit of tie-breaking point values coming in. After we give this a tier, we're going to find what the Rotten Tomatoes user review percentages.
Audience score, yeah.
Audience score, that's what it is. Metacritic, I think, says user reviews, which is dumb.
Yeah.
Metacritic's audience score, that'll be a decimal that will get added in. So far,
for example, there you see that Ethan has 5.55 points. That 0.55 is 55% on Rotten Tomatoes from Tomb Raider. But over time, after these 6 movies, Ethan might have, let's say, 7 additional points based off all those percentages. So those will add up. We added that in just to kind of keep us honest to a degree. We'll be like, hey, we really loved the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but if you go on its Rotten Tomatoes score, not a lot of other people liked it. So it's a way to kind of, when we were doing the draft, which you should go listen to the episode if you're looking for something more casual, and we kind of had a fun time just picking 6 movies each from a random pool. So this is our fantasy football, basically.
In a sense. Currently, I'm in the lead with 5.55 points over Devin's 3.57. Yes, I lead by 1.98 points. We'll see how much money more. I said this last time and I remembered what it was. But yes, we also have counter picks. And you might notice my counter pick is Devin's movie Angry Birds. Devin's counter pick is my movie Oni Chambaro, the movie Vortex. Essentially, you can see we have other points over here. If Angry Birds is a B tier, I'll lose a point. If it's a D tier, I gain a point. That's what this thing over here is. An S tier counter pick is -3. An F tier counter pick is +3. And
Yeah,
C
so
is,
if he
is
does,
0.
if one Chernabara, however you pronounce it, there is like the best movie I've ever seen, S tier, I will probably just lose.
Probably.
Doesn't matter what I scored.
Yeah. So that's a fun thing we're doing just for fun. It's a counter pick. But yes, Tekken Blood Vengeance is not Devin's counter pick, so we don't need to worry about that right now. We need to give this a tier. Since it is
Mhm.
my movie, it's one on my list, I'm just going to start and say I honestly believe, and this is somewhat in relation to the last movie we watched, Resident Evil Degeneration, as well as my own, I guess, a little bit of disappointment in just it's not what I thought it was going to be, and then it became something I liked, and then it became something that just I didn't want it to be that anymore. I'm gonna give this personally a C. What about
Mhm.
you?
I think after first watching it, it's a B for me, just because of, like I said, I liked the chunks with the two girls and their relationships and the humor, like I said, the dialogue, all the anime uh, high school shit. I liked that a lot. But after having this conversation and thinking about it more, I kind of am definitely more of in the C. I think it might be a high C. I know we don't do that, but like if I had to put a range on it, it's definitely a high C because I definitely like this a lot more than some of the Resident Evil movies we've watched. I feel like I'd watch this before that. Um, Not saying I probably won't watch this again though. This would be a fun thing to like have a movie night, just me and you, and we're just having a couple beers
Yeah.
and watching it because it's funny. I think I could see us like laughing at this shit again. But as a movie itself, it misses the mark too much. It's yeah, I don't know. I want to give it a B, but the more I think about it, it just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? It doesn't pass
Interesting.
the B vibe check. But it is fun. It's pretty fun. But yeah, that last 20 minutes, don't care. Too much plot stuff going on or lack thereof developing it. So I'm okay like this is agreeing on a C.
Okay.
I like I said, if it was a B, it'd be a pretty low B, just based off everything else we have on the list. I think is a lot better.
I think if it
It's
didn't
not
have
solid.
the
It's not
ending it
solid.
had, and the
Oh
ending
yeah,
was about the two main leads, it would be a B easily. Um, and while I would like to pretend my headcanon it was intentional, I really think this movie was meant to be slotted in between two games and have just fun lore things happen. And just have the wish fulfillment of seeing CG Jin and Kazuya and Hayashi beat each other up and do all
yeah.
the anime
I think
stuff you
it's
can't
part
do
of
in the
too
game.
of being like in the video game movie like tier system we have is that we try to look at it from a lens too of can this movie stand alone? Like the Sonic movie that we have in A tier, and then Sonic movie 2 we have in S tier, if I remember that correctly. Whatever AS, um, is that those movies can like a general audience member can go in not knowing jack shit and come out of the movie being like, I know what Sonic is. I can call myself a Sonic fan and know what Sonic's about. And a lot of the other A movies is the same thing. A lot of the other S movies, Detective Pikachu. How many family members brought their kid to that and they don't know two shits about any of the Pokemon that were on screen besides
Yep.
Pikachu and maybe a Charmander in there? You know what I mean? Like, and you come out of that feeling satisfied and being like, this is a solid movie.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's the best way for me to like. And then once you get into B, I think you still need to have some idea of being able to tell a general audience member what this movie is and what these characters are about. And I don't think it does it with that. I don't. Why would I give a shit about Jin? I don't know who the fuck
Right.
Jin is.
Right. Right. And even though he seems like he's a good guy who won, he also sounds like he sucks in the way this movie presents him. So like,
This is
yeah.
definitely a movie for the fans, and to a degree that I think is a detriment, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. We're in agreement here. It is a C tier film, which nets me 3 points. However, why don't you pull up what our Rotten Tomatoes
Yep, I
audience
have it
score
here.
is?
So what's funny is it doesn't even have a tomato meter. So no one reviewed this film according to Rotten Tomatoes. Like the the
Interesting.
the people who watch movies for a living and get paid for it. Not us. But the audience score, can you guess? Can you give me a number what you think it might be? based off the last two that we've had. Remember that Resident Evil and Tomb Raider had very close audience scores. So I guess that makes it harder to
I'm going to
predict.
guess 42%.
You're pretty close, 44.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So that means I have, let's see, I have 8.99.
Oh my gosh. That point 0.01, huh?
Yeah, I have 8.99 points. All right. Perfect. Well, the next movie we're going to watch in a future episode of the Sonic Movie Show is Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. This is Devin's second movie.
We're sticking with the fighting games. I
Yeah,
remember when we did the draft, I think I had that up. I already had Mortal Kombat Legends up there, but I was like, oh, he picked Tekken. Let me kind of like do a counter pick to that. Let's stick with the fighting games. And we'll see how they pair out. But yeah, this is so far it's interesting to see. We still have a lot of film. I was gonna say a lot of ball to go, like basketball. It's only halftime, not even close to halftime yet. But we have a lot of films to watch. So I still feel like it's up in the air. I think you do have a solid start. I think we'll see how Mortal Kombat Legends is. I've heard decent things about it. That's why I have it high up on my pick list. But after that, then I think we're in the weeds.
We'll find out.
Straight guessing.
And for podcast listeners at home that are not watching us on YouTube, because you can watch us on YouTube, we have a visual aid for you right here on YouTube. If you're listening at home and you don't have a visual aid for us, to reiterate, the movies that we have yet to still see for this podcast are Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge, followed by Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15, followed by Ratchet and Clank, then Persona 3 the movie number 2, Midsummer Night's Dream. That's a K night, like a sword knight. Then after that is Dead Space Downfall, which might have been more topical to put in here, but we can't plan everything.
I know, for the SEO we could have really got them numbers up. Yeah.
Then we have Ni no Kuni, then Angry Birds, then Oni Chambara the movie Vortex. I think it's Oni Chambara. It might be just one Chambara, but I feel like it being a Japanese name is Oni Chambara the movie Vortex.
We'll find out.
And then Corpse Party. So, yeah, those are our movies for this season. We'll see how they shake out with Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. Hey, in the meantime, why don't you go ahead and follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify,
all
Premium,
those,
and Twitter at Sonic Movie Show. We are on those services at Sonic Movie Show.
On YouTube, all that.
Yep. Follow us on the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, etc. Please like us on YouTube. We're doing a big thing this season with actually having a visual aid, and where you can see us talking and you can see my hand point at you, because you are going to hit the like button. You're going to hit subscribe. You're going to go down in the comments and you're going to type in, I did not see this movie. It's not on streaming services. Where did you find it? And you're just going to write that down in there. That's how we know you're engagement. I'm on Twitter at Ethan Absolutely. Devin is on Twitter at CursonaFun. Yeah, I'm trying to... I
don't know. I always forget which way. For me, it's, I think, my right. But it's really the audience's left. Or whatever.
It is what it is. Follow us on all those places. Please tweet at us what you thought about... What was this movie called? Tekken Blood Vengeance.
What do you think about the Blood Vengeance, huh?
Yeah, what do you think about it? And should they make a sequel? I think they should just make a different Tekken movie.
I want a Hulu 8-episode, 30 minutes each of just what happens after, but just for our two main leads. I don't give a shit about the other shit.
Just them just finishing high school.
Yeah,
that's it.
They go to college. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Eventually, Alyssa's gonna have to go to a school that has a uniform, like mandate. She's just gonna be like, no.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna catch you next time for another episode of the Sonic Movie Show. Bye-bye.
Are we done here? Fine. Later.
Who says that?
Our boy, Sheen.